We're going to go ahead and get started. At this time, I would like to call our meeting to order. And if everyone would join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Would everyone stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. We're going to move on down to approving the agenda. And we do have one item to add tonight. I'd like to make a motion to approve item D, consider SFCC fiscal year 2020 KETS offer of assistance to the agenda. The motion?
Second.
Second. All in favor of approving the agenda with the additional item of item D, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. Going down to recognitions, Ms. Ember.
Well, good evening, board members and fellow guests. The Kentucky Center for School Safety designates a Kentucky Safe Schools Week each year. Fortunate for us, it's this week. And so this observance coincides with the national campaign. America's Safe Schools Week is sponsored by the National School Safety Center. John Akers, the executive director of KCSS, had this to say about this week. I encourage all Kentuckians to get involved and nurture kindness, unity, and empathy across our Commonwealth and in our schools. Teaching tolerance and modeling kindness in our everyday lives will help build the safe communities and schools of tomorrow. Muhlenberg County is so fortunate to have in our schools 5 school resource officers. Each SRO is a sworn law enforcement officer who has specialized training to work with youth at a school site. These SROs serve in a variety of roles, including law enforcement officer, law-related educator, problem solver, and community liaison. There are approximately 230 SROs in over half of Kentucky's counties. On any given school day, you'll find these SROs walking the hallways, interacting with our students and staff, monitoring lunchrooms, and giving high fives to anyone who offers. We thank you, school resource officers, for all that you do each and every day to provide safety measures to our schools and create profound relationships with our students and staff. These officers are quick to offer their expertise to our staff on required safety trainings and are ready and willing to help at any school when a need arises. So as I call each of your names, I'm going to ask that you come up. Mr. Davis is going to present to you all a certificate and to say we greatly appreciate you.
And Miss Henry, as of today, one was even an academic team moderator.
Excellent.
That must be Brock. That must be Brock.
So we'll start with our elementary. So we have Brent Robertson. He is the SRO of all 5 of our elementary schools. There's no case.
Well, you won't focus. I'm sorry about that, sir. Okay. Well, it won't work.
Just a second. Yeah, you have to wait on hands for a second.
Okay, for some reason, I don't know, did I break the camera? I'm not sure what happened. You won't focus, but okay. Carla, come try it yourself. It will not hurt. Let me do this one.
They can't smile no more. The fake smile don't come out.
Are y'all ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
I am mad.
I'm
He had 5 schools. We needed to give him extra time up here. Our SRO of Muhlenberg North Middle School is Mr. Brock Mefford.
A fellow Reds fan. We'll excuse you for that.
Our SRO of Muhlenberg
Who's the Reds
South
at?
Middle School is Wes Miller. Mr. Darren Albro, SRO of Muhlenberg County High School. And then we have Mr. Mike Drake, SRO of Muhlenberg County High School. Again, we just want to say thank you, gentlemen, for the work that you do. We ask that you will join me out in the hallway. That's your escape for leaving the board meeting. Thank you all very much.
Okay, we'll move on down to our treasurer's report. Mr. Blitzinger.
Thank you, Chairman Rager, board members. Tonight I bring you the financials as of September 30th, 2019. Revenues this month. Our beginning balance was $21.2 million. This is down about $2.19 million. Also removed $1 million from the general fund investment. The CD matured, so we put it back into the general fund. We will also still look for if there's an opportunity to reinvest some of that. But right now we're getting pretty good rates with our deposits. So we may, depending upon where we can put those things. Also, legislature has kind of loosened the reins a little bit on what we can invest in, so we can get things that might be a little more aggressive, but not too risky. So anyway, our monthly receipts are down 2.3 from last month. The SEEK is unchanged. Federal's up about 214,000. Taxes are down about $1 million. That was in that franchise. Food service is up 213,000. That was of concern last time just because of timing in that respect. And daycare is down 1,000 for total securities and receipts of about 23.5 million. The expenditures this month, September. Accounts payable is approximately up about 1.29 million when compared to the same period last year. Again, this is construction costs. Significant bills in September were 1.1 million to Train, 528,550 to Old National, 35,778 to Tremco, and that was South Middle's roof over the library that was fixed then. So total accounts payable was about 2.7. Payroll was 2.757. It's up 33,000 versus September of 2018. Again, it's right in line with where we'd expect it. For a total expense of 5.458. Sub costs are up 11% when compared to last year, but we had a lot of sub custodians and for the construction in July and August, so they were helping out around the schools. And we also had a new daycare center down at South Elementary, so that's where those costs went up. Now, granted, it's at 11%, but it's really in actual dollars, it's not a significant amount. So. The accounts payable breakdown, fixed and mixed expenses were about 2.279 million. Utilities expense, 123,734, and variable expenses were 298,000. Accounts payable breakdown, the 2.7 total accounts payable. General fund accounted for about 755,000 of that. Special revenue fund 2 is 57,000. Construction about 1.16, and debt service 541,000. Food service and daycare was $182,000, and scholarship accounts payable was $1,000. The ledger balance at the end of the month, so cash, with cash and securities at about 18 million. The bank balance, about 12.5, with outstanding checks, about 2.3, and again, most of those are in construction costs, so. The breakdown of that balance, general funds about 9 million, that's down about 1.2 million, Construction, that 1.988, that's down 1.16. And the total, about 18 million, it's down about 4.2 million. Extended financial picture, in February of 20, we expect to have about 22.96 million in the bank, and that's February is usually when we get, January, February is where when TVA falls into place.
And this reflects all the remaining payments?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Are there any questions?
Are there any questions about the treasurer's report? If not, I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
A motion by Ms. Barr,
Second.
second by Ms. Wells. All in favor of approving the treasurer's report, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. And payment of bills and salaries.
Thank you again, Chairman Rager. This month, I bring $388,479.75. The majority of that is in fixed and mixed expenses, and about $91,000 in variable expenses. The significant checks were to Train for $92,869, and to Westerfield Builders of $36,790, and that's for the construction of the pole building underneath the bleachers at the high school.
Any questions? If not, I need a motion to approve payment of bills and salaries. Motion by Mr. Johar. Second by Mr. Bowers. All in favor of payment of bills and salaries, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. Thank you. Down to public participation, and we have none. We'll move on down to the administrative report and superintendent report. Mr. Davis.
Thanks, Chairman Rager, board members. I have a few things tonight, and Mr. Perkins is going to go over some test scores here at the end, but I want to start by reminding you that your personnel actions are in your packet. And if you're interested in going to the Winter Symposium, please talk to Sherry sometime after me or call her tomorrow, whatever. And speaking of that, our next meeting is kind of on a tough date. I've let you know, Sherry caught that. You guys are actually going up, some of you will be going to Louisville. Is it Louisville or Lexington? Louisville that night after the meeting, so we may want to move that other meeting, something to consider. Doesn't have to be decided, well, it won't be decided tonight, but you guys can consider that, and we'll make it work whenever it works for you, so just kind of let us know. I sent you an email. I want to turn that on, I guess I should, but we got an email from a lady from Shoe Sensation, opening a new business over here, and who had interviewed, I understand she had interviewed several of our kids from high school, and this was an unsolicited email that was talked about how impressed she was with the soft skills, the interview skills. I think, Susan, you'd heard that out in the public as well, but I got this email, and it just really makes me proud, and I'm so proud of our high school with what's going on with Miss Bumps and all the high school folks. Now, this is going on throughout, kindergarten and up, but obviously these were high school kids, so the soft skills that they're teaching and reinforcing, sometimes it's really cool to see that it actually is making a difference. And this lady, she was so impressed with our kids. So hats off to all that are doing that. That's a total staff thing. This is a big hats off to the high school, but as I said, it's going on at all levels. So just super proud of that, and I wanted to mention that. It's Bus Driver Appreciation Week, and so we are very fortunate with our bus folks, and Tim Abbott, Kim Dukes, what they do. They're amazing leaders out there. Tim, that was hard hard to say. I had it written down, so I would say it. They do a great job, and as I talk to other superintendents, we are blessed with the folks we have, and you think of how many miles they're running on those roads, and as few accidents as they have, fewer problems we have, is kind of amazing. So I think our principals have done a pretty good job. As I understand, some I've talked to are taken care of and make sure they feel appreciated, but I did want to mention that. A couple of construction updates, and I'll bring in Grant and Eric on this a little bit, but at Bremen, I was down when they set the light poles, so actually that's cool. The community can see something's actually happening after a lot of years. And Grant, where are we now? I know they were working on the concession stand last time. How much?
They're blocking the concession stand, working on the grades for the fields, working on setting all the concrete for the frames for the concrete. I told them they were going to go maybe on Thursday on Halloween. I said that might be a bad day.
At Bremen, that's a bad day.
They are really getting some work done. So.
Well, so that's moving along. The last I heard, they're still hoping to sew it down before winter. I mean, we're getting tight here, which would mean maybe in the spring, actually some things could be going on. So I'm pretty excited about that. And then here, I think most of the other construction out in the schools, the high schools, I think we're pretty good shape there. Eric, you can jump in. And here, we're going to be without heating and cooling here for about 6 weeks. And we're about, 2.5 weeks in now?
Correct.
Weather's been really nice to us, but it's going to be a while before, we get anything because they're changing some things out here. You may notice the lights is a little harder to see up here because the lights are so much brighter as they've changed those. And that's throughout all the schools, so it's made a huge difference if you've been in the schools, you see that. Eric, I know you've talked to Dale Toms recently. Where are we at?
The majority of the work is complete. Really, a lot of it is what's here, and just so far we've spent about just a little over $9 million, and there's $957,000 remaining. So
10% left.
And we obviously, we keep the 10% retainage until the punch list is done. So as they start getting close to being more and more done, that's when we'll start having discussions with the principals and saying, okay, what items are you finding in your buildings? Then we'll pass that along to them. Now, I will say they've been very good on the things that I've passed along, that I think they've kind of followed up on those items.
Did you get Matt Oates comfortable?
I did, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So he is comfortable, and obviously we have, we're trying to iron out the heating and cooling in some rooms. They're, it's not quite perfect yet, but we're working on those, and we're making it through.
Jimmy's been on top of it, and Dale Thompson's been good to work with, so we've been pretty pleased with them. Here, I'm more motivated than ever to get out into schools because it is loud here on some days. They are beating and banging, and God bless some of them. Sherry trying to answer the phone, and it's loud here, but we're going to a better place, so we're happy about that. It's all good. Let's get to the principals now, and then we'll get to the test scores. So we'll start with Ms. Bumps, Muhlenberg County High School.
Mr. Davis and board members, lots of things is always happening in Mustang Nation, so I always try to make it a short list, but it's hard for me to leave anyone out, so just bear with me, other principals, okay? We just held our fall CPE, or Career Tech Ed Fall Advisory Meeting. That went over real well. It's when we're able to invite in community members, parents, as well as students to serve on those advisories so that we can get feedback on what we need to do to help make sure our students are employable and to make sure that they're successful, and it was a very nice event. Jonah Mitchell has committed to UK. We haven't held his signing yet, but we're very excited about Jonah picking that particular university. I would like to invite the board members to our Thanksgiving lunch on November the 21st, so please come out to either campus for that. And Meet the Mustangs is also November the 22nd. To go ahead and put that plug out there, that will be held at West Campus. Our cheerleaders serving some chili that night, so if you haven't seen a cheerleader, to purchase a ticket for the chili server, I'm sure they would appreciate that. Our Veterans Day program at the high school will be held on November the 11th. That's probably one of our best ever programs that we do. Our JROTC staff and students put a lot of hard work and time and dedication that I'll always look forward to that particular day when we hold that. And I know Miss Embry and her stand group are getting ready for the Red Ribbon Rally on October 30th next week, so we're very excited about that as well. As has already been mentioned tonight, a big shout out to our transportation department. I was just talking to Kim Dukes earlier today that we really don't realize how lucky we are in that when we have other teams, or whether it be academic or athletic teams, come to us, one of the things that they tell us on their way is, we'll be there as soon as we can, we have to wait for a bus. We do not ever have to wait for that. She makes the necessary changes that needs to be done on the routes and always make sure that our kids can get on the bus and get to the extracurricular activity on time and early. So we're very appreciative and very fortunate to have someone like she and Tim, obviously, in our department. Our volleyball team just finished district runner-up recently. We'll compete at regionals it'll be next week. We won't know if it's Monday or Tuesday until Saturday on the draw, but regionals are held at Hancock County High School. And then our soccer team, both of those wrapped up, both finished district runners-up, both won their first round at region. Unfortunately, they were both beaten in the second round, but very proud of those teams this year. So that concludes the high school report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Bowles. Mr. Rager, North Middle.
The Friday before we left for fall break, we had a recognition assembly. We recognized the students of the month, MAP scores. We had a student staff full contact scavenger hunt, and it was a lot of fun. Had a spirit contest. The grade levels, they competed for the spirit stick. In recognition of our bus drivers this week, we placed snacks and drinks out at the front and the back for the afternoon bus drivers to come in and get a bottle of water or a Coke or a snack. Sending pizzas tomorrow to the bus garage. So yeah, Tim, we're going to have lunch tomorrow. And we're going to have we usually have 2 Fun Fridays a month. We're actually going to have a Fun Thursday on October 31st. So if you want to come out, you're invited about 8:20. We'll have the staff costume parade. There's no performance planned this year as of yet, so maybe a letdown from last year, sorry. November the 20th is our Thanksgiving lunch, so if you're invited to come for a good lunch at North Middle as well. I know the high school's the 21st. I already have a standing invitation for the maintenance department are coming, tech, transportation, bus drivers, Renaissance Center, and first responders. So everybody else is welcome too. So Ms. Sue said just give her a count. So anyway, we have that going on the 20th. We have the Beta Spooktacular tomorrow night from 6 to 8. If you would like to come, please stop by. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rager. Mr. Lau.
On Tuesday this week, we had our father-son night. This father-son night was our archery competition, the second time we've ever had the archery competition. That went real well. We did actually treat it as a tournament this year where we had a first, second, and third place winner, father-son duo, and then we had a long shot competition from the 15-meter. They all got one arrow, one shot to see who close. We had a father winner and then a son winner. But you know, the neat thing about that night's the feedback we get, and the fact that you get the comment that says, it was great to see my son smile because I was here, or just a great night with my dad. And you know, in the society we live in now, there's not enough time for that. So it's great to offer that for our father-sons. Thank You Thursday was today for our bus drivers. And this was the first year that we invited our retired South Middle bus drivers back. And so we had three came today. So it was great to see them back. It's always kind of like a family reunion when they get to come back and see each other. And for some reason, they're always smiling a lot more. I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't have to work with Kim anymore. But we do appreciate our transportation department, as others have said. And tomorrow is our JA and a Day Junior Achievement, and we'll have that going for our 8th grade. That wraps up.
Thank you, Mr. Lau. If I'm not mistaken, you had at least one teacher, maybe some other community people that stepped in for the role as a father for some that did not come. Is that correct?
Yeah, we had Mr. Eves, and he stepped in and he played the role of a father for a student who came and didn't have anybody. And he volunteered that ahead of time. He said, hey, if anybody comes, and we told him to come on, and sure somebody would show up, and they did. So that was a great opportunity for that student to have someone. And then Officer Miller's already gone, but Officer Miller, that was not required of him to be there. And he was there from the time school was out till we finished putting up the last piece of archery equipment. So that's probably 8:30 at night. So greatly appreciate all of those that came out and helped.
Thank you. Mr. Watkins.
To begin, I'd like to thank our Sheriff Ricky Allen. He came by yesterday and spoke to our staff and students, covered a lot of different topics, the importance of practicing soft skills daily, decision-making under peer pressure, social media safety, and most importantly, school safety. So again, we appreciate him taking time out of his busy schedule to come and speak to our students. On October 29th, myself and 4 students will be going to our local Job Corps to take a tour. In particular, they're interested in the heavy machine, welding, and the CDL licensing. And lastly, we've had 13 students so far who have successfully transitioned back to their regular school. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sharp?
We would like to say thank you to Kim. She does a great job. Every time we work together, she does an incredible job, and all of us drivers. We met them out there today with some donuts from J&H in the morning. So October 1st, we had our data night. Went really well. We had donuts with the principal today, and that was a session where some parents and I met and talked about school. Shout out to Officer Robertson. He does an SRO, Eagle Pride Academy, and we meet with 4th and 5th grade students, and we talk to them about, respect, soft skills. We're working on budding up with some of our preschool students to read with them and things like that. So he's a great help with kids who really need somebody in their corner. Shout out to Julie Penley. She, one of my staff members came to me and we wanted to do an SEL team, which the acronym SEL stands for Social Emotional Learning. So Mr. Lyle, our PE teacher, Miss Julie, hooked us up with some materials. So thank you to Miss Julie on that. Fall Festival, we had a great time. I spent part of it on the roof because we had the biggest fundraiser we've ever had. We've sold more chocolate bars than we ever did. I didn't have to spend the night up there because they didn't meet their original goal. So,
which was what, $5 million?
$5 million. We just had our writing scrimmages. Our students did really well with that. November 11th, we have our Veterans Day assembly, and that's coming up. We invite you guys out. It's 1 p.m. And November 12th is Math and Fitness Night, because our theme is connections this year, and how math and fitness connect together and things like that. I want to be the model for that. And Halloween is Thursday at 9 a.m. It's a big time around our place, so we extended our invitation to the board. I know Mr. Freeman's really excited about it. We'll have a good time, and we'll have a parade. We'll have all kinds of really cool costumes. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. Ms. Higgs?
We had our Red Cross Pillowcase project for 3rd grade back at the end of September, which they talk about a lot of safety, what to do at home in case there was an emergency. On September 30th, we had a career fair and health fair during the day, and again in the evening. During the day, we had lots of vendors. We were kind of in competition with the high school, but that turned out okay because we really got a lot of different type of vendors and things that came in and presented, so it made it a little bit more unique. Have a big shout out to the high school biomed classes because they also came and presented from Stacy Cornett's class and Lauren Cartwright's. They did an extraordinary job. In fact, we were talking afterwards, next year we could probably get by with just them. They did that phenomenal of a job. So we appreciate that. On that last week before fall break is always our health week, and so we ended that with our annual color run, and Mr. Davis came and got involved in that. Kids had a great time with that. On October 14th, our mandatory PD day. Of course, we analyzed our K-Prep scores that morning, and then we joined with Greenville Elementary to work on our math standards rollout, and that went very well. November 8th is our Veterans Day presentation at 9:30, I believe. 1st and 2nd grade will be presenting, and we celebrated with the bus drivers with blizzards this week. So, very busy time.
Thank you, Ms. Higgs. Ms. Jones?
We'll join everyone and give our appreciation to our bus drivers in the transportation department. We had our bus drivers there this afternoon. We had J&H Bakery cookies and gave them Greenville Elementary lanyards. Not these, they got a nicer than this one actually. We had breakfast with the principal back in September 26th. That went real well. Our Student Leadership Club took the lead to promote School Safety Week this week. They've made posters. All students are taking the pledge during computer lab time, and all staff members have been encouraged, and the staff members are posting their pledges on the wall. October 1st, we had Family Data Night, and we had a Math Maniac show, which was great. It was really good. Good time for the students. Definitely would recommend that to any of the other elementary schools. Yesterday, April Jernigan from Paint Me Pretty, she's opening up in Central City. She came and worked with our 5th grade students. They've been studying Native Americans, and they've been focusing on artifacts. So each student was able to make a piece of pottery, and they have sketched and put sketched the pottery, and she's going to take it back and fire it. So we're just really appreciative of the time and the hours that she spent with us yesterday. Fall Festival is tomorrow night from 5 to 8. Invite everyone out because we are having our first Storybook Pumpkin Contest at Greenville, and we've had about 70 entries, and they are outstanding. Have judges coming tomorrow from the board, and appreciate them doing that. It's going to be hard. I'm very glad that I'm not judging, but they will be on display until Halloween, and we will announce the winners on Halloween, so come by and see those.
What time is it?
Fall Festival, 5 to 8. Halloween, we'll have our assembly around 8:30 that morning. And
Tomorrow night is 5:30?
Tomorrow night's 5 to 8.
5 to 8.
5 to 8 tomorrow night. Yes, please come by. I won't be on the roof, but that may have been a good idea.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Mr. Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. I do want to send a shout out to Officer Robertson, the effort he makes getting in all of our elementary schools, and he does a great job keeping us informed, and working with him has been a pleasure. And I do look forward to, we just had talks about continuing our leadership program where he pulls a small little group of boys, and they have a little leadership meeting each week, and they have a lot of fun, but they also talk about some important skills, and it's basically a mentoring program he provides for those boys, and it's a great opportunity. And like I say, he gets out in the building and has that positive impact on a lot of kids, and seeing him in the building is very important. I do want to give a shout out to Kim and the Bus Garage. That team is incredible. Anytime you call for Kim, she jumps to and serves in many, many ways, and almost in any circumstance she comes through with a solution. So she does an outstanding job. We got a great set of drivers. I know it's a challenge to keep the fleet of drivers together because you see new faces being brought in, but I tell you what, each and every new face has that same professional kind of feel, so that goes back to the staff training and getting new drivers up and going. So really proud of the effort she makes, the whole team makes. When you see our buses out in the community, just like the other night I pulled up to a sporting event, I saw our bus, and you do make that quick comparison. Our bus is sitting there shiny and looking sharp, and then you have that slight, you look at another couple counties, and they're nice buses, but they just don't compare to the care we put into our equipment. So that goes to the staff that takes care of that. So I do want to talk briefly about a couple things going on at Longest. Real proud of our kindergarten teachers and students. They just wrapped up kindergarten literacy boot camp where they spent 26 days getting to know those key letters and their letter sounds and the early development writing. So they had a lot of fun with that. And then we had a parade through the hallway as they walked the red carpet and enjoyed that morning. But they've had a great time and had a positive there. We're getting out and getting our work-ready field trips underway, so they're really enjoying those those trips, so we appreciate that funding and those opportunities. You saw a crowd there longest tonight. We've got second and third grade production today. They've got a Halloween play going on today, and it's a musical about 5 or 6 songs, dancing, speaking parts. It's pretty incredible. So every second grade and third grader performed twice today on this. So pretty amazing, and the level of performance that they make is pretty outstanding. Kudos to those teachers that put in the effort and the discipline behind that situation. Really proud of the effort our teachers and staff made on the Monday, October the 14th. That was a Cuban Word Day. We got a lot of good work done that day and did some required training, but we also analyzed our data and just really proud of the effort. But I'm sure there's a lot of positive efforts across the district, and it was a very useful day. Couple upcoming events. We have our Fall Festival next Friday night. So if you're out and want to stop by and visit with us, we'll be out there from 4 to 6, and should be a lot of fun next Friday night, November 1st. A couple big events always for us, big for you guys too, is Veterans Day, November the 11th, and we have our rotation. This is our first time to have Ag Day at our school. Some of the other elementary schools have enjoyed Ag Day, and I've seen some really good things going on there, so we want to enjoy that opportunity as well. So we look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hardison. Right before I get to Mr. Wells, because that made me think of the Ag Day, I was able to visit at South Elementary, and I want to give a shout out. Obviously, the kids at South Elementary were super well behaved and very respectful, showed their soft skills, but the high school kids who were the part of the Ag Day with all their booths, we had all kind of animals there, they were exceptional. Mr. McElwain happened to be there that day, but I told him, I said, that just watching them work with the little ones and the way that they handled themselves, talk about soft skills, the Ag department's got it going on, so I did want to give them a little bit of a shout out. All right, Mr. Wells.
That was the first thing I was going to say.
Sorry.
We had Ag Day last night, it was fabulous, and a big thanks to Newburgh County High School students and their Ag teachers for that. That was the first one we've ever had. We had a data day on the 14th for our teachers. Just gave our teachers insight on our school strengths and then the areas for improvement. We have had several grade levels take their work-ready field trips. We want to thank the district and the Fidelity Martin Foundation for those funds. Tomorrow, the 5th grade will be traveling to Owensboro for Kentucky Wesleyan College visits. We hosted the first academic meet of the year this afternoon. All the elementary schools were there, all of those teams. A special thanks to our coach and all academic team coaches for helping get those meets together. That's a big undertaking. I believe MSCS won both of their matches. I'm not sure how the other schools fared, but we were proud of that. Teachers were engaged in a math training after school on Monday. This is in conjunction with our new KAS math standards and practices. One of our lead teachers in 3rd grade has been at math training yesterday and today, and she'll come back and share with our 3rd grade team what she has learned and also share those strategies with our primary teachers. We've got a writing scrimmage scheduled for Monday. I know other schools have talked about this. Ours is for Monday for all students. 4th and 5th grade are having their fall family night tonight. This is part of our school-wide Title I program. 5th grade is sharing their Native American homes and also the presentations. They're going to be presenting those to their parents. 4th grade is going to have a lesson on the life cycle of pumpkins, and then they're going to get to carve a pumpkin and take that home with them. And we want to thank our family resource coordinator and their resources for helping us get those together, Ms. Kim Meadows. And then on next Tuesday, we're going to have our kindergarten and 1st grade family night event. It's going to take place in the gym, and it's called Camp Green Lot. So a lot of things happening at the southern end of the county as well.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. And Ms. Perkins, if you'd work your way up here, I want to thank Mr. Perkins for getting together the scores and the slides, because there's a lot we've tried to cut out, so it doesn't take 2 hours, but we want to put enough in so you get good information. Now, he has sent an email to each of you with some stuff from the state and some stuff he's added and compiled that's very in-depth with the information. So for this presentation, we'll try to trim it down down and make it a lot of bang for your buck in a relatively short amount of time, but not gloss over it. So just need you to be perfect.
All right, well, we're going to go with 20 minutes. The timer's on. Should be about right. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Chairman Rager, board members, we have a lot of information to get to, as Mr. Davis said, and we're actually going to kind of tag team on this presentation. That way he can get in some expectations, talk about some district level initiatives that we're working on, and I already want to just give a big shout out of my own to all of our schools and teachers and principals. They have been looking at these numbers since way before they were even reported in raw data form, and they have a lot going on already to look at some of the areas where they want to improve. This year is a brand new year, as you know, for testing, and we have some celebrations and we have some tentative wait and see baseline approaches going on with the numbers that we're looking at this year. So I'm going to go ahead and go through nuts and bolts. We're going to look at our scores themselves, and then we'll talk about next steps and what's coming up in the accountability cycle and things that our principals are already working on. So this year, we have a new accountability system. We are in a 5-star ranking system now. What those stars mean is a hard question to answer because it's a combination of different parts of the testing system that come into those, and it depends on which level you're at, elementary, middle, and high. But as you can see, they are brought, or the numbers come through proficiency, separate academic growth, which is social studies, science, writing, editing, and mechanics, growth at the elementary and middle levels only, transition readiness at the high school, and graduation at the high school. We're going to have a quality school climate and safety indicator that'll be put in next year, and that's already a little bit of a change because the 4% that is counting has been spread out through some of the other accountability areas. So again, it's going to not be exactly apples to apples next year, but that's not holding us back for sure. Achievement gap, though not an indicator, will reduce a 4 or 5-star school by 1 star if at least one significant gap exists. And we had nothing, none of our schools fell into that category at all this year. How it works at the elementary and middle, CSI and ATSI I'll talk about in just a minute. Again, whoops, first time on this clear. Again, you'll see proficiency in reading and math, separate academic, in science, social studies, and writing, growth through reading and mathematics, and proficiency in growth with English attainment for English learners only. That's an important part of the new accountability system, is a higher emphasis on English language learner students being included with the accountability system the very first year that they're at our schools, and we are working towards tracking their growth over time, and we get a number for that wasn't in place before. At the high school level, you have proficiency that this year came off of the ACT. So the reading and math scores or benchmarks were used from the 11th grade students who took the ACT last year on the date that we give it school-wide. Those numbers were used to determine the reading and math. From this day forward, we will use the K-Prep assessments that will be in place this year that were field tested last year, and I'll get into more of that in just a little bit. So again, we're not going to be able to compare those two scores. It's going to be a whole different system. In separate academic, that's science and writing at the high school. Social studies is coming, but that won't be until next year because the new standards are in place, but we do really, really well though. Social studies at the high school, so we're eager for that to be included. Graduation is a 4- and 5-year rate used for CSI. That's something different. 4-year graduation rate is for CSI 2. The graduation rate at the high school is the combination of the 4- and 5-year graduation numbers averaged together. For transition readiness, that's a big, big piece of what the high school works towards, and actually the middle school and elementary as well. Don't let me overstep them. That's a combination of, as you can read, ACT, college placement, dual exam, dual credit, AP, international baccalaureate. We don't do that here. Industry certificate is CTE, EOPs, tied to articulated credit, apprenticeship. You can read the rest of those. It's complex, and it's on another slide here in just a minute. Stop me if I go too fast or if there's something you want me to clarify.
What's the reasoning for not using the ACT and just changing that?
It was never meant to be used as the proficiency indicator, but when they were working up the test items, they found out they had issues and they weren't ready. So 2 years ago, actually, they switched the ACT for 1 year only. We were not supposed to use the ACT again this year. We found out, and I'm not trying to be critical, they're doing the best they can at the state level too. So our kids took the end of course test last year, and we thought that was what the accountability factor was going to be. And then sometime in the summer, Ms. Bumps or anyone else that can jump in there, a lot has changed so fast that it's easy to get caught up. But it was recent. It was in the summertime where they said, oh, by the way, we're going to use the ACT again. So that's not what we expected. That ACT fluctuates a little bit, depending on the size of your 11th grade class. In essence, all of the accountability for academic achievement is on the 11th grade class at the high school. So that's, you can, I don't want to say hit or miss, but you know what I'm saying. It really does depend on that one group of kids and how well they perform on that one day on top of that. So there are numbers that are used for accountability weights. I'm not going to get into that a whole lot. You have that information in both the packets that I shared with you. And you're going to have an opportunity to ask more in-depth questions of individual schools later on when you start meeting with them and their site-based councils. And if you have any need for more information, Mr. Davis is very up on this. He can give that to you, or he can have me get with you, or we can get together for you and share that as we go through. I was watching a recording just before I got in here. It's constant learning in order to keep up on this right now. So next year where the blanks are, well, no, take that back. That's the accountability weights. There'll be a change here in a minute. So for 18-19, these are those weights. This is what I was alluding to, was the quality of school climate and survey. This number will be included next year. Think TEL survey. Students give responses on a survey that will then go into a number that will be added into that accountability, which is a good thing. There are indicator cut scores. This is all developed over time by looking at the sample test questions and looking at the responses. Cyclometronics, cyclometricians, look at all of those numbers, and they crunch that in order for it to be somehow, some way for us to add it all up and give us a score. Now it's important because this is the first time with the new system we've had a baseline, so now we know what we're shooting for. We really didn't know before. We were just taking it blindly, and I will share that anytime you do that, I don't think you give your full effort. If you know a goal and you're talking to your kids in our schools and we say here's where we need to be, that's a whole different show than just take it and see what happens. They had to have a cut score for the stars themselves, and this one's important. So we're going to look right here. This is where we want to get. Mostly we're right here right now, and you know this because you've seen it and everyone else is already there too. But these cut scores are where we want to shoot for. And they told us, but it could change, that they should stay the same, but they might not. So at the elementary, remember, I'm just reiterating what they tell me. Elementary 71, middle is 67, high school 72. Remember those numbers. 71, 67, 72. Because you'll see in a minute why. Bottom 5% cut scores. This is for the schools that get comprehensive or targeted school improvement efforts. What that is either help through KDE, through people coming in to do professional development, or if you're at the lowest level of the CSI schools, and actually those are going to change next year. CSI is now TSI and TSI is now CSI. I'm not making that up. They switched it. But anyway, we have a quick celebration because last year we had two schools, Greenville Elementary and the high school, were both TSI schools. And as I've said already, they are no longer, but I want to take a moment to stop and say, congratulations. That's very nice. All right. This is in a nutshell what we're talking about. It's additional support for schools. Growth. A big part of what our elementary and middle schools are looking at is growth. Our high school does as well as far as individual students moving forward, but this is a real big piece of what their overall number gets to. We're talking about where the kid was last year compared to where they are this year, and how much they grew, and how those numbers are calculated. And I can give you a little bit of that as we get into it a little bit deeper. So, you can read. This exam right here is one that we give at the district level to our kids. And you can see that it's been monitored. Now, where the growth measures come from, there are points that are assigned from the growth table for academic proficiency and then from EL as well. I talked about that a little bit ago. Okay, I want to stop for growth for just 1 minute. So there are different levels of achievement for math and reading and science in these different areas. You're a novice low, a novice high, an apprentice low, an apprentice high, proficient, or distinguished. You get 50 points for each student in each assessment if they stay the same or they move up 1. So if I move up from a proficient to a distinguished, I get 50 points. If I go from a distinguished to a proficient, I get 0. That's bad. If I am a novice low and I move to proficient, I get 50 points for each level. So from novice low to novice high is 1, to apprentice low, apprentice high, proficient. There's 4 levels. 4 times 50 is 200 points. That's a big part of what we're looking at, and it's really important because every one of our principals in this room here are looking at what happened to a kid who went down. Because if a kid went down, we know they can perform at the higher level. They just didn't. So we're going to we're going to select that child and really get with them and find out what happened, because we know those are growth points that we should expect from each of those students this year. And that's a lot of the work that they're doing already. And it's good in this sense. We've gone backwards a little bit into novice reduction and trying to move kids from one level to the next. And I like it because it makes sense. Teachers understand it. Parents understand it. Kids understand it. Everyone gets it. We want you to move from this level to that level, and here's how close you are, and here's some of the things that you need to do in order to make that happen. And then you do the school pride thing, which is, and this is what we want to do to make our schools look proud and for us to all be doing what we're doing. The graduation indicator is what it seems. It's a big part, obviously, of what we do at the high school, and they're doing a good job in today's world of trying to get kids to get across that stage. And unfortunately, we do see a lot of kids that get very close and just have a hard time putting in that last little bit. Transition readiness is talking about, are we ready to be college and or career ready? Ms. Bumps talks about it every day at the high school. That is their mission. It's all over the building, and all of our kids can tell you that's the reason that they're there. I'm going to talk about this in a chart that's easier to look at, although it's pretty small. So to be transition ready, you have to have a high school diploma. I'm standing right in front of it for the rest of y'all. And you have to have one or the other or both to be either college ready, career ready, or college and career ready. So you need to have a benchmark as determined by the Council of Post-Secondary on a college placement exam, or a grade of C or higher in each course on 6 hours of KE through dual credit. You can see these different areas. Or for career readiness, receive an industry certificate, scoring at or above benchmark on CTE end of program assessments, different areas that are there. This is a huge undertaking for the high school to keep track of all of this and to make sure that students are scheduled such that they can get to this point to receive industry certifications or to test for those, because they have to have a certain sequence of classes in a certain amount of time in order to even be able to take those assessments. So a lot of energy goes into that, and a very big shout out to the entire team over at the high school that keeps track of that and gets our kids ready. And it's real. It's real for kids to see those things, and they really do make that high school experience a lot richer. Okay, where are we at? In Muhlenberg County, our elementary elementary schools combined came in at 3 stars. We have no significant gaps, and our overall score was a 68. So we want to remember, what's that 4-star number? Who has it?
72.
72. So we need to get this number to 72 as a district for us to be a 4-star district. 71, 67, 72. What, those are the 3 numbers?
71, 67, 72.
71, 67, 72. Yeah.
Right.
That's good. All right. Oh, wait, I want to talk about this. Our proficiency indicator is high. Our kids do really well on the math and reading. They do pretty good according to this system that we still have to watch for a year or two in order to get a baseline. In the other areas, social studies, science, writing, editing, and we're about medium as far as growth. So those are areas that we need to keep an eye on. At the middle schools, 3 stars as well, 63.4, 71, 67, and 72, right? So 67, very doable is what I want, is why I'm bringing these numbers up. And medium, medium, and medium. At the high school, 3 stars as well. And a 64, 71, 67, 72. There are a lot of components that go in there, and I really am banking on that social studies. And so is Mr. Davis. We talk about it a lot. We think that's going to make a big difference. And again, none of the federal classifications. Now, math and reading, we need to do some work. We're at a low, we're at medium in our other areas, medium in transition readiness, and low in graduation indicator. Even though that number is pretty good, we know we've got some work to do. Let's take a look at each of the schools. 65.6, you know. The high school's simple because it was only the high school number. At the middle schools, North Middle is at 62, 73. I like these numbers I like the labels are easy to work at. Medium, medium, low. South Middle is high in proficiency, low in separate academic, and medium in growth. You see how this is going to play out. We're really going to have to look individually at each school and find out what we can work on and what numbers it makes to make a difference. At Bremen, super high, the highest in the district in proficiency, high, second highest in separate academic, but very low in growth. And Mr. Sharp and the team are on that. And they have owned it, and they're going to get that where it needs to be. Now, here you go. If your kids are all very high in proficiency, though, as 3rd graders, and you don't have any transition as far as kids coming and going into your school, if they're all proficient and distinguished as 3rd graders, they're going to continue to be proficient and distinguished as 4th and 5th graders, and it's going to be very hard to move up. So I've shared with Grant, and so has Robbie and everybody else, this may be their existence. This might just be where they are. Okay, Central City, a 67, very strong score. Medium, medium, and high in that growth indicator. That's great. And again, it's early. We're going to have to get another year or so under our belts in order to kind of feel for where we are. But very proud of all of our schools. I want to say that. Greenville, 71.6, high, medium, and high. And we are going to stop and say another way to go as the 1 4-star school in our district. Good job. There will be more of us next year. And at longest, 70.3, 78.7. We're high, and medium. And I believe Mr. Hardison corrected us on what that 4-star number was a minute ago. What was that again, Mr. Hardison? 71. Funny how he knew that number, isn't it? Very close, very well done. As to all of our schools, kudos. And at South Elementary, medium in proficiency, high in separate academic, and low in growth, and in some ways for some of the same reasons. So it's really important not to celebrate too much or to get too down on ourselves if we're not where we think we want to be at this point. But we all know names and faces of students that we want to move forward, and when we don't don't see the numbers that we want, we know how to get back into our schools, and we know what to do into getting into these areas. I'm going to do a quick comparison. So last year in proficiency, you'll see each school listed and the proficiency number this year. Here's your separate academic, which again is your social studies, science, editing, mechanics, and writing for each year, and then growth. But these numbers are in blue for a reason. Growth is calculated differently this year than it was last year. So this is a wash. We can't even look at growth. But I just want to put it up there so that we can continue to do the labels. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but you can see that in some areas we're close, in some areas we've gone up a little bit, in some areas we've gone down, but this is the data that we'll begin tracking over time in order for us to find out where we are. Mr. Davis, you want to add anything in at this point?
You've done well. There's no need to really jump in a lot, but I will say some things that we're kind of proud of. You look around the district, most districts that have at least one two-star school, and some two-star schools can still be good schools with the way some things could fall. But we're proud that, we don't have that. We're proud we have no gaps, significant gaps where we lost stars. We're never going to be happy with the 3 when there's 5 possible, but I do want to not exclude the others because everyone works so hard. I do want to say we are proud and happy for Greenville to get to the 4. I think it's possible we see a lot more next time. But what I'm most proud of is I've met with each principal now for 1.5 hours, 2 hours, talk about a lot of things individually. Scores are always first after these came out, and they are already on it. Their teachers are on it. They've got plans. They're identifying kids. They're doing a good job. 3-star doesn't sound like somewhere you necessarily want to go and stay at a 3-star hotel. So, that label, I would like for that to look a little different than it does. But we've got some pretty strong numbers, and I'm pretty confident after talking with them and seeing our staffs what they're doing that once they decide on something, we'll start figuring it out. You're really shooting for that proficiency, and then with the growth, that's a whole different beast that changes like every year. And so what we're trying to do now, what they're trying to do is identify these kids that we can move, and then what they're doing is they're knowing their kids individually, and they're doing some activities to do that. I could get into it at a different time. I don't want to belabor the point, but I'm proud of them, and I'm proud of our staff. It's not just scores. You're hearing what we're doing with soft skills. What we're trying to do with mental health and all that. So we're looking at the whole kid, but scores matter, and so it's not like we're forgetting that, and they did well.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
You'll see, if you go on the KDE website and you go to the school report card, they've added a way for you to compare schools side by side. I don't know if you've had a chance to do that. I'd be happy to show you that, or you can get to that, or I can send out directions. You can pull up like 5 different schools all at the same time and compare. There are, if I was to show a visual for the swath, there are this many 1-stars, there's this many 2-stars, there's this many 3-stars, and there's this many 4-stars, and there are very few 5-star schools. So really there's a wide swath of 3. So now we need to determine where are we on that swath, and where does that fall into play. But there are many 2-star high schools out there around us, and there are many 2-star elementaries and middles. And go to meetings with people I'm colleagues with, and I look at them and I know their schools, and I think, how is it that they're where they are, and how is it where we are? Time's going to tell a little bit more about that as we go. The high school does have a additional transition readiness and graduation indicator. That's that slide there. And I'm going to pick up the speed here just a little bit. So let's take a look at what's going to happen. This year, we're going to take a lot of different tests. These online administration tests are for both the field tests, which don't count, and for the real tests for the high school that do count. A lot of our kids are going to be taking traditional tests, but I don't want you to think that our kids are taking all of the K-Prep that won't count and all of the K-Prep on paper that will. They're all going to take one small session. So every 3rd through 8th grader and 10th graders are going to take an additional online assessment that won't count. It's field test questions, and it's an ability for us to test the computer system statewide to see if they can handle all of that at the same time. time. But we're ready for that, and we'll be where we need to be. So this year is the last year that our kids will do any paper pencil testing at all. Starting next year, there will be no more shipping them all out to the building in the back and then worrying about losing test booklets and answer booklets and all that, which can be a real hassle. So it's still changing is what I'm trying to share. So that was the elementary, middle, and then the high school is all online. But they did it all online last year, so they're up and ready to go. We've talked about focusing on gap closure and proficiency and knowing our kids. These are questions we're supposed to ask ourselves. And are there any other things that we need to look at? Maths. Oh, this is how we work with our groups and identify what we need. So I apologize for being lengthy. I know that takes a little while, but it's an important part of what we do. And I want to make sure that our general public and our community knows that we are on top of our testing system. We understand that we're where we need to be, and that our schools are working very hard every day to improve and make the most of our opportunities. So that's what I have, Mr. Davis.
Sir, well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would like to say in the interim, having been there, having left teaching in this county, I know what the principals go through. I know what the teachers go through. I know what the parents go through, not knowing where your child's going to land. But I also know that every single person does everything they can every day. I've seen it. I've been on the committees. I've been in the workshops. So I have 100% faith in this county and what they're doing with kids.
Thank you.
Proud to be here.
We're down to the attendance and enrollment report.
You have 20 minutes as well, Mr. Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Good evening. I have before us the second month attendance report, which was August 31st through September 27th. Our attendance for the month was 94.97, which was up 0.34 tenths for the month compared to last year, ending the second month. For the year, compared to last year, we're up just 5/100ths. So a good month last month. Hopefully continue that for the third month. The enrollment, we closed September 27th at 4,480. That was up 13 students from the previous month last year, or the same month, I'm sorry, last year. Down 17 students from the last day of school, ending in May of 2019. It was also up 9 from the previous month, but I did run numbers today. We're at 4,463, which is a drop of 17 compared to that last month. So just that transition period this time of year, and we'll have probably another one after Christmas, just sort of in that. But that's, we are staying steady, so as of right now. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we're going to move on down to item A on our board action items. Consider second reading of recommended changes to policy 01.421 to our public participation in open meetings policy. And this was approved last month. This is just a formal second reading. Basically, the policy addresses just placing a time limit of 20 minutes total on public comments, time limit of 5 minutes per individual speaker, and the procedures that must be followed when someone is approved to speak. The motion by Mr. Johar. Second by Ms. Wells. All in favor of approving the second reading of the changes to the public participation policy, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. Item B is review and discuss 2021 school calendar. Mr. Freeman, come back.
Thank you, Chairman Rager. Board members have tonight, again, I want to make a point. You will not be voting on this. The statute a few years ago, basically, that one meeting prior to, you have to sort of go over, discuss, and then at the November meeting, we should hopefully be able to adopt the calendar a little bit sooner than previous years to give everybody a heads up as far as where we're going. But just want to go over, Sherry's got that up, just want to go over the calendar committee's recommendation as of right now. Again, want to thank, we have 10 members plus myself on the committee, parents, community members, teachers, classified staff, so I want to thank their participation in this, and as well as Ms. Wells, who assists the board. 2021, it's recommending a 185-day calendar. 171 days would be instructional days. That's the same amount of instructional days for students this year. We'll have 4 staff planning days or work days, 4 professional days or PD days, and then we'll also have an opening and closing for staff. So that will make up the 185-day calendar. Opening day opening day for staff would be August the 5th, and then opening day for the students would be August the 6th, which will be on a Thursday. Closing day for students would be, or last day for students would be May 17th, which was on a Monday, which is not ideal, but again, the committee is thinking that we probably won't end on that day anyway, now due to snow, inclement weather. If we do push it back, May 18th, which would be the last day for our staff, that's an unusual day for this time. Usually that's an election, but in 2021, there are not election dates across the state, any taking place. So if we have to, we could move that right. The last day could be Tuesday for the students, which helps out tremendously instead of having to move it back to a Wednesday if need be. Just a couple things. Obviously, everyone, fall break, that's a biggie. That would be October 5th through the 9th. We would also have a non-flex PD day for staff on that Monday the 12th, very similar to this year. Again, reviewing data, test scores. I think it's very appropriate. Something Mr. Davis likes as far as, because it's exactly the right time when the teachers and the principals get their data. Just a couple other things regarding that. November 2nd and 3rd. The 2nd would be a PD day. November the 3rd, that's a election, presidential election, so all offices will be closed, county and state offices. The Christmas break will begin on Monday the 21st of December, so you have three full weeks in December for students, so really not a issue as far as makeup days. We have 9 makeup days. We tack those all on at the end of the calendar in May and into June. 2021, you have a good long break for the holiday break because January 1st is on a Friday, so you'd extend that to the 4th when the first day back for kids. And regarding that, as far as semesters, 85 semester days for the first semester and 86 for the second, so you can't really get any better than that as far as the day difference. Something else, school times would remain unchanged based on this. And then obviously February and March, you still have those 3 work days and a PD day that we always been putting in there for the last 4 or 5 years that we could use for makeup days if needs be. Gives us a little wiggle room there, okay? Spring break, April 5th through the 9th. And that would be the last big break of the year. Any questions? Again, it's just part of the statute for 1 month or the next board meeting that you could vote for approval. We could make some changes if need be, and But I think it's pretty much sound to this one, our current year, very similar. And again, we're trying to get it out where we can get this passed about 2 months quicker, where we can let the people know a little bit in advance. Obviously, with fall break, you wouldn't believe how quick they call regarding that. When is that? So that's all I have, Chairman Rager.
Thank you. And this is just for review only, so I'll make a motion to approve the review of the 2021 calendar. Second by Mr. Johar. All in favor of reviewing the 2021 school calendar, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. Item C, consider purchase of 2 standard school buses and 1 special needs bus. Mr. Johnson.
Yes, sir. No free ones. Today I bring to you, consider the 2 standard school bus purchases and 1 special needs bus. I do want to say that the state recommends that you replace about 8% of your fleet annually, which is really about 5 buses for us. And the fact that we can go on 2 says a lot about our transportation department, especially the maintenance group. Tim and his guys do a great job. Kim and her staff do a fantastic job. It also shows the fact that they care for the buses.
Sure.
So, you can get a brand new bus, but if they look like they've been beat up just because they don't care.
Did we have any buses for recall that recently?
Well, and in fact, no, but...
Did you have any recalls from St. Thomas?
Thomas bus that's been on TV?
Yeah.
So we talk about?
Yeah.
We have not been notified of that at all, so I don't think it involves Kentucky buses. I think it's going to be Indiana.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Indiana, it was recalled.
Some Kentucky and Ohio too.
Oh, really?
The other thing I do want to mention that Tim was been watching out for us as well is that he came across a deal where we might have been able to get a free bus, but with purchase of other buses, but it did not work out this time to where it would do that. So that's why we have this on just as it is at this time. So I am asking that we approve purchase of 2 standard buses and a special needs bus with.
Have you drove these buses yet?
I did not get to test drive them, no. So.
Maybe I should.
That would be fun.
Put it on the hold.
Most qualified of any.
For digressing.
Put this on the hold.
Go ahead, sorry.
All right. Any questions regarding the bus purchase? We've got all of the information regarding these here. If not, I need a motion to approve the purchase of the 2 standard buses and 1 special needs bus.
I make a motion.
Motion by Ms. Ford and a second by Mr. Bowers. All in favor of approving the purchase of 2 standard school buses and 1 special needs bus, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none. And down to item D, consider SFCC fiscal year 2020 KETS offer of assistance.
Thank you, Chairman Rager. As you recall, last year this came a little bit late. This year they're on time. We've received our first SFCC CATS offer, which is a Kentucky technology basically needs. It's up $36,212 that we are required to match with local funds. And they can also be escrowed up to 3 years. So Chad and his team manage those funds very well, so we do well with that.
I have a motion by Mr. Johar.
Second.
Second by Ms. Wells. All in favor of considering the SFCC fiscal year 2020 KETS offer of assistance, say aye. Aye. All opposed? I hear none.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we're down to our board consent agenda items, A through D, approving the minutes of the prior board meeting, consider leave of absence requests, consider fundraising requests, and consider field trip requests. If I had a chance to review those, are there any questions regarding any of these items? If not, I need a motion to approve the board consent agenda items.
I'll make a motion to approve.
A motion by Ms. Wells, a second by Mr. Johar. All in favor of approving the board consent agenda items, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Hear none. Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bowers, I'll second. All in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Hear none, we're adjourned.